You're tuned in to the Breaking Red podcast, the show for rising military leaders who want to trailblaze the future. We tackle the profession of arms with creative solutions to dynamic issues. This isn't your typical leadership course, so be ready to step up your game and define the future. I am your host, Gabriel Gabe Roccavilla. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. Gabe Rock, enjoying some holiday season. Hope all of you out there are enjoying your, I don't know if it's the start of the holiday season, depending on when you start it, but it's definitely in full effect. My family and I have just recently returned from our trip to Disney World. First time travelers there. It was an amazing experience. We went there for 4 days. We did the whole 4-day military hopper ticket, got those savings out of the ITT office before we left Alaska, and had an amazing trip there. And what I wanted to talk about this week was the power of the debrief. And so Air Force squadrons, we usually do debriefings mainly in the flying squadrons, and we're starting to do them. I know 673rd Comm Squadron started to do their debriefs for the mission defense teams, and I saw the sparks early on of how well those things are going to be used, because they're supposed to be used to find opportunities to fix problems and then finish with the right solution. And so using those kind of techniques borrowed from the flying world, we're trying to apply them in the cyber world and making sure that we bring the team together. Lots of good things you can see, read out there as far as what is the power of the debrief and how they can be used for your small teams. Not going to go too much into that, but I am going to debrief a couple things here on this episode. So first up, I'm going to be debriefing the family trip to Disney World. If you've never been there, and I know many of you have, I actually talked to a lot of people who calmed me down from the original kind of panic attack I had before going to Disney World. I didn't realize you needed that much planning and energy management as you went there. I thought it was like, oh, it's just like Disney World, or it's just like Disneyland. Like, no, it's not. It's way bigger, and it's way more that you need to think about. So luckily over the last like 7 months, we've been slowly researching and figuring it all out. And I will say that we had an overall mission success. Up front, I'll say planning is everything. And so my wife, Gina, did an amazing job of planning this with her girlfriends and figuring out what are the places to go, what are the big rides we needed to do, the order we needed to do them, getting those fast passes. And so all the planning that she did was amazing. So we got to experience all 4 kingdoms, and it was awesome to experience them all in one trip. In addition, it was the ability to stay agile. Even though we had a plan, we also had some white space in there that we found some opportunities. So, for instance, we only waited 15 minutes for Haunted Mansion, which was my personal favorite that I wanted to go see. It was an amazing experience. And then walking around, we got to see, we did a Peter Pan character experience. And so my daughter Lana got to meet Peter Pan, and he autographed her sketchbook and stuff like that. And so she was very, very happy about that. Energy management. So both food and liquid sources, both free and paid for. You can get a beer, which is kind of cool in certain, not in Magic Kingdom, but the other kingdoms you could. I also experienced some blue milk from Galaxy's Edge, which was very interesting. The texture was weird. It was kind of like a pina colada, but there is some stuff in there that made the texture was just kind of weird, which was the point. But it made waiting in line for 110 minutes for Smuggler's Run worth it. In addition, you had to figure out that waiting is part of the experience. And so even with fast passes and trying to get to things that you're going to have to wait in line, some of the rides and experiences had more interactive and better things to be to keep you occupied. But conversations, activities, or watching Star Wars Episode 8 can make the time go by a lot faster. So it wasn't the end of there was one specific waiting instance. It was for Peter Pan, and it was a terrible waiting experience, but it doesn't matter. We rode the ride, and it was cool. Also found out that our kids have outgrown the majority of the experiences. When I say that, I mean they still love going. We all love going to a Disneyland or Disney World, but like my son, Benjamin, we originally thought he was really going to be afraid of some of the roller coasters and stuff like that. After he started going on them, he went to Splash Mountain, Space Mountain, Rock and Roller Coaster, and a bunch of them. He was like, oh, man, that was awesome. Let's go. Is there more rides? I was like, well, no, this is a little bit slower one. He was like, oh, okay. And he's like, I'll go, but he really wanted to go some of the bigger roller coasters. So I believe he is now ready to go to Six Flags. We have an annual pass for that, and so we're going to hit up that holiday experience, and so which I'm happy about. Now all four of us can go on little scarier rides, if you want to call it that. He said he has not physically seen Superman yet, but he's going to go on there because we're going to make him go, and it's going to be fine. So again, overall mission success. We checked off every box we planned for, all the experiences, all the things that we wanted to do. I also have a badass Kylo Ren lightsaber on its way back home, so it's going to be going into my man cave. And the kid, I was joking around like where for the kids, I have to keep on telling them stuff like, Ben, do your laundry. And he doesn't do it. And I go up to him, Ben, get up and do your damn laundry. And he still doesn't move. And if he just hear the zoom, he's going to get up and move because I'm going to freaking lightsaber his head off. So, yeah, it's going to be a good overall thing. We all got our little trinkets that we wanted, and family and fun times. It was amazing. And now we made it back home safely, reunited with our dog, Sally. And now we're going to go into full Christmas home decorating mode. So going to put up the tree later and all that stuff and getting ready for the holiday season for our family anyway. So good debrief on that. Wanted to expand the conversation on this episode to debrief the 2019 of how Project Rise and Breaking Red podcasts have both been executed and where we need to go. With my recent completion of my rough draft of my book, I recently announced on Project Rise, my personal website. I think now is the time to debrief the last year and how I've built the website and this podcast and see if I'm heading in the right direction I want to. Because I feel that there is some improvement that can go, and that's what debriefs are, because you're not supposed to be looking at only the highs and patting yourself on the back for everything that you've done. You want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. And so I believe debriefing myself for both my website and my podcast is important. So Project Rise, starting off with that. And so, the tagline is Rise to Your Potential. And underneath the about, I wrote things saying, I'm passionate about building leaders to serve both in the Air Force and within the local community, but most of all, improving what's between the ears in all of us. And so the website started back in 2018. And it was really I just did a blog. I've done this before where I just capture my thoughts on leadership, and I just publish things, whatever I feel like publishing. I had a small stint on there where I recycled content from my old website, Rock One Fitness, because I wasn't sure if I was going to try and publish more fitness related things, because I started to coach again at 907 CrossFit. And so I wanted to offer some of the things I have. When people ask me, hey, do you have like a 2-mile running plan? I'm like, yes, I do. And I led a small group of, I don't know, like 6 or 8 athletes, and improved all their mile and 2-mile tests within like a minute or so, or 2 minutes. And so it was a thing of, instead of me just texting it to you, I could just redirected everybody to a website. Like, look, here's my 2-mile running plan and how I'll get after that. And so it was good for some of the fitness stuff. So again, created the blog to capture my thoughts on leadership and fitness. And overall in 2019, I posted a total of 46 articles, of which garnered, as to date anyway, 5,874 views. Pretty good, I think. I don't really know. That's part of the reason why I need to continue to debrief even past this podcast, because I'm not sure if that's good or bad. I deliberately did not do a large amount of social media interaction, and I'll talk about that later as far as why I chose not to. But for what it's worth, I mentioned it to people, and I shared it on my personal social media platforms, but I didn't go full on as far as social media marketing. So this weekly exercise it became a weekly exercise to write and share my ideas to a broader community. I shared my thoughts on personal leadership. I shared some things on time management strategies, I should say, evolution of base level comm squadrons. There was times where I had my personal thoughts, and I started sharing them on other platforms, and I was advised to not use like official letterhead, so I just made it my own and said, okay, this is not Lieutenant Colonel Avila's perspective now. It's just Gabe Rock's, and I'm just drawing out my things in PowerPoint form, and I want to have conversations about it. So that was an interesting time. But pretty much I used Project Rise to talk about any topic that I encountered and wanted to share my personal thoughts without having to filter them. I find that creative expression is important, and I maintain a degree of professionalism when I talk about it. I'm not out there slandering anything, but I'm also not going to dodge away from some of the more touchier subjects and make sure I talk about them up front and try and garner some better understanding either for myself or the audience to understand where I'm going and why I chose to go a certain way. Eventually, the website sparked my idea to write a book on Squadron Command, of which then the blog itself turned into a weekly exercise where I became, I use every week exercise, a blog post to complete a chapter. And so you can kind of see, if you wanted to see the rough draft of my book, you could just go back, and they're not necessarily in order, but you can see some of the raw content that I wrote, because that was my homework I gave myself every week to write a chapter in the book. It became a very iterative process to complete a large project, but I was happy to say that I completed it a couple weeks ago. And so the last article, I forget the number it is. I just know the title was "Don't Fuck This Up," and it's a good. I came to the point where no, I think I'm actually done with writing this book, and now I can move into editing mode and figure out how I'm going to release it to the wild. So as I looked at the website recently, actually not even recently, I knew from a while ago, but I didn't have enough time, maybe 3 months ago, the site is not ideally designed as a resource for the reader to easily access information or tools. It's pretty much just a chronological roll-up, and there isn't a lot of easy navigation to, hey, if you want to get time management strategies, go here. If you want to do some fitness stuff, go here. The website is not designed for that, and I knew that, but I just didn't have enough energy or time in order to rework it. So I know that's something that I can improve upon. And then, with the start of Breaking Red podcast, you can see that the website is kind of jumbled. There's an embedded podcast player on the right-hand side of the website, which I'm not a fan of, but it is a place to put it. But it's not ideally designed. The content is just there, but in my opinion, I know I can do a better job of designing it to make sure that is a optimal user experience for everybody to use and consume both the written and audio versions of the content that I produce. So overall, right now I'll give Project Rise a C. Because it's just there. It evolved, yet I didn't. The purpose of the website evolved, yet I have not evolved the website itself. So I know I have to do something better about that. And moving on to a Breaking Red podcast here. So, my original tagline is, podcast for rising military leaders that seek to trailblaze the future. Hear real talk on difficult subjects to hone your skill sets and inspire action plan to build a successful team and career that rises above traditional expectations. So I worked hard on making sure I wrote that mission or vision. That's not a mission or vision statement. It's just the sales pitch of what is podcast about. And so even just reading it, I'm no, it's supposed to, the original idea was intact. It was the podcast was created to complement Project Rise, because Project Rise ended up turning into a platform where I blogged my book instead of just talking about leadership things of my experiences recently. So I started to do podcasts about everything going on at work, or just stuff that I experienced and stuff that I want to talk about. In 2019, I have, according to my Buzzsprout stats, I have a total of 64 listeners with a total of 940 plays over 2019. So I guess that's good. I don't really know. I'll be happy once I hit 1,000 plays. I know that there are other podcasts that hit 10,000 plays in less than 2 weeks, and that's awesome for them. But that's not necessarily a goal that I'm trying to garner, because I'm not sure exactly if my strategy is aligned correctly for that. I do find this the audio platform, the podcast platform, is a great place for where there's more flavor behind what I create compared to the written word. Just my audio delivery and my natural speaking skills, I guess you want to call it that, come across a lot different than in the written word. And I enjoy talking with people. I enjoy talking. And so it felt like a natural extension of my creative side of just sharing leadership tips and techniques and things that I wanted to share with the world. I also found out that my new job isn't inherently military. And so part of my source material that I would encounter at work isn't there anymore, because I don't encounter a lot of military, Air Force specific situations. I work in an agency now, and it's a majority filled up with civilians, and that has a different kind of interaction that you have, and it's not good or bad, it's just different. So most of my content targeting a military audience is lost because I don't have that natural level of experience and things that come to me day to day. I still have workplace things going on, but they're not military focused per se. And so even the content that I talk about now, in general, they could be applied to any work environment, which is good, but they're not necessarily targeting the right audience I originally sought out for, the military audience, which is neither good or bad. It's just misaligned. I also found with the podcast, I started to have my own personal conflict with using too much social media interaction. And I don't know exactly what's going to be the best way for me to do this. Social media has its goods and evils, and I'm not sure how I want to leverage them and how much I want to go in on that. I don't mind just creating for the sake of creating. Whether or not this turns into something that's money making for me, I would like it to be there, but that's not inherently the primary goal. My primary goal is just to create and share my thoughts and share my ideas, and hopefully build a community for people of like-minded people that want to share in making each other better. And that's what I most enjoy about, not necessarily making money or making this a money-making endeavor. And so I'm not sure what's going to be my potentially my play count, my listener count could go up, but I'm not sure if that's going to be conflicting with my personal ideas on how to use social media responsibly. I also found like one of the techniques as far as trying to do the $50 donation giveaway, it didn't work. It didn't work, and I can say it didn't work because there have been no recent rating or reviews using the hashtag DBA within the comment, and so that contest didn't work. And so traditional social media and marketing tactics, even though I remixed it because I made it to where the person who submitted the comment didn't win. I wanted somebody else to win during the holiday season. That technique didn't work. And so I'll have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to do marketing techniques that I'm personally okay with. And so overall, the branding and the project for Project Rise and Breaking Red, what I find is it doesn't immediately make sense or isn't immediately recognizable to the common user. And so, when you think of Project Rise and Breaking Red, you'd have to keep on listening for a while. And eventually, unless you knew me personally, you would know what it was about. But I have to work on exactly how to make Breaking Red a little bit more, and the subjects that I talk about, a little bit more inclusive, so where I can expand my audience to a larger one other than just the rising military leader. So that's my debrief. I have a lot of work for 2019, a lot of cool stuff. I am very still much enjoy creating content, but I need to update my strategy and how to best release and share content because I have a lot of things that I like to share. Whether or not, and some things going to be free, some of these could be paid for. We'll see exactly how that evolves. But I just know that I'm still enjoying what I'm doing. I enjoy having a podcast and a website, and so I'm going to continue to refine the strategy and how I go about doing everything. Also going to figure out, will fitness be a deliberate subject I consistently publish content about? I think that I definitely have some other ideas as far as affiliate management, operations management, coaching management. There's some things that I also get to experience being another coach at Crofton CrossFit, as well as the new transition of where the box is going to go under new leadership. So I don't mind. That's another area where I potentially have some content, some subject matter that I want to share. So as of right now, I'm taking a strategic pause on Project Rise and to focus on editing the book. I'll be doing that offline, but I'll continue to publish content here on Breaking Red podcast. Going to determine a new branding strategy to unite all efforts under one common banner. So that might change the name of this podcast, it's just a change in name. But ideally, a website, and I don't know why I didn't choose Project Rise as the name of the podcast, but I didn't. And so because I have two separate things, I feel like the better strategy is to have just one unified effort and branding idea that people can get underneath. Another thing I potentially need to figure out is how to do a better recording experience. If you can hear the loud ass air conditioning unit behind me or heating element, I can hear it even with my headphones on. So I apologize for this portion of the podcast. Is kind of the audio is off. I mentioned it earlier. I also want to use social media responsibly. So I want to make sure that, and when I say responsibly, there's something about the social media that I don't want to bother people about. Yes, it's the easiest way to get content and things out there, but there are too many things out there that I'm uncomfortable with as far as how to garner your attention, how I can pay for it, or how to manipulate things. And manipulation is a weird, odd word, but I find manipulation is part of social media. Social manipulation, I'm not sure. So I have to figure out a responsible strategy. I'm going to go for slow but steady progress. I'm not going to try and shoot for the stars because that was never the intent. My intent is just slowly but surely build out this thing as I go along. I'm in a great place in my life where I can do that, and so I'm not dependent on this to, pay the bills or feed the family or anything like that. So I can figure out the best way in order to make this remain a creative outlet for myself and become hopefully something useful for the audience out there. So I ask you to continue to listen to Breaking Red. I hope you have more content will be published weekly, even throughout the holiday season. I'll figure out exactly when I record episodes. A new branding strategy will be incrementally rolled out. And so if you're listening to the podcast, you pay attention to projectrise.co, you'll find out exactly what are the changes, or you'll just see them because I'm going to change the website accordingly. But yeah, overall, I'm very, very happy where I've been with Project Rise and Breaking Red, but I know I can... Sally, is that you? I can hear you whining. Okay, I got to let Sally out. So she's behind me trying to go outside. So I'll talk to you guys next week, and I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving, and let's all head into the holiday season with hearts full and keeping our heads forward. Peace. This is Gabe Brock, and thanks for tuning into the Breaking Red podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review so we can improve our work and deliver the best content possible. You can find our community platforms on Facebook and YouTube by searching for Breaking Red Podcast. Keep up with weekly content at our website, projectrise.co, and you can find me on Instagram at GabeRock01. Like, follow, and share Breaking Red Podcast content everywhere possible, both the good and the bad. Join our conversations with other rising military leaders that aren't afraid to break red and learn how to rise to your potential.